Are you looking for an escape from manufactured truth wrapped in selfish agenda? Don't you just want to have a real and raw conversation, all masks and rules aside? That's what you're getting here at Titan Evolution Podcast. Get rid of all the nonsense information and discuss everything under the sun without filters. Listen to real stories of real people who will put your current perspectives to the test, guide you on living the life you truly want, and see everything free from judgment and pretenses. Time to get rid of those unhealthy environments and let your authentic self shine. Here are your hosts, Travis Johnson and Carol Carpenter.
Hey guys, welcome to the show. I'm Carol Carpenter, and there's my co-host, I guess trying to look intelligent, Travis Johnson. And we have a special guest today.
Trying to look intelligent? I don't know what that means. Trying to
Well,
look
you kind of had a pensive look on your face. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was boredom or actually being pensive. But our guest today is Ken Smith. Hi, Ken.
Hi, Carol.
Hi.
And hi, Travis.
So Ken, hi, Travis. Ken is the CEO of Empirical Wealth Management and a senior financial advisor and guides the firm's long-term strategy. Ken is passionate about educating individuals on how to become smarter investors. How I know Ken isn't from Empirical. In fact, he is a fellow motorcyclist and is passionate about the sport and owns Ducati Redmond in Washington State. Welcome, Ken.
Well, thank you. Thanks, Carol. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Yeah.
I'm over here on this side Googling pensive to see if I was getting slammed or not.
You were not getting slammed. I wouldn't do that to you, Travis.
Only like in every other episode.
Okay, every other. So it's the beginning of the new year, so I figured I'd give you a get out of jail free card.
Perfect. I appreciate that. I definitely appreciate that. And I got to ask, where's your energy today, Carol? Like, running a financial institution and owning a Ducati shop, that's some exciting shit, but we had like
it's
no energy out
opposites.
of you.
Yeah. We kind of had it before. I'm spent. No.
Well, you didn't do your warm-up stretches like Ken was doing before we got
I know
started.
he kind of did his stretches before the whole thing.
Yeah.
It looked like he was doing like the 1950s, like boys' school kind of pseudo calisthenics where nothing really happens when you're stretching. It's all these weird, awkward movements, and it looks like something that just isn't effective anymore. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not in charge of that stuff. No one has asked me for any kind of physical fitness advice, let's be honest, in a long time.
Well, if you have any tips for my warm-up, pre-call warm-ups, I'm open. I'm always trying to learn. So.
I gotta ask, Ken, like, Carol's a huge fan of yours and was so excited to get you on the show. And I don't yet know why. So usually when we do these interviews, the guest either knows myself or knows Carol pretty well. So the other person's like, I got to know like all the stuff. Tell me all the things that makes Ken run. What drives you? What gets you on fire each and every day? Why was she so excited to have you on the show, Ken?
I think maybe it was her and I met at the dealership after we opened the Ducati Redmond shop, and I was sharing. I found out that she does the track events, and so I think we exchanged contact information. And I reached out and said, "Hey, I'd like to learn about that. I want to sponsor some track days," and I'm still learning, and am learning a lot about the motorcycle business because I've been riding all my life, but I actually am new to the business part of it. But the passion that I think Carol and I shared was I wanted to do something different than the experiences that I had received when I've bought motorcycles over my lifetime. I say, it's sometimes a little underwhelming, and I feel like it's very transactional. And so I started, when we did get a chance to talk, I was sharing with her, I'd like to make Ducati in Redmond more of a luxury brand experience and a community and build relationships with other riders, particularly that are passionate about Ducati. But to be honest, I like all motorcycles of all types, and pretty much. But in this case, I really fell in love with Ducati a few years back when I bought my first Ducati, and so we started talking about that. And I had said, when in my business, on the wealth management side, this is what I've been doing basically since 1995. It's been a really long time now, and what I loved about both of them is I've always been very entrepreneurial, and I love the idea of creating something that is of value to the clients that I work with. And so my dream always was, well, what can I do to add value? And listening and reading all the materials, I was starting to share a little bit about that, Travis, when I was younger. I learned pretty quickly on, if you want to be successful, the best way to do it is to create something that adds value, and you can't help but be successful. If you consistently bring value to the people that you're serving or the target audience in a unique way, you will be successful. And so those were foundational principles with Empirical when we started it, and my financial advisory business. And I have a lot of aspirations with we built a very good team, and I think that's the other thing I learned along the way, is the team is imperative.
Team.
Yeah, to the success. And I feel we've got a great team at the Ducati Redmond shop, and now it's taking a very long list of ideas and vision and dreams, and seeing if we can execute it. But that's a long answer to the question that in Carol's discussion about all of her endeavors, I felt like we had a common thread there, that we're both very passionate about doing something unique and adding value to the people that we work with, and making personal connections, and making it more of a relationship in our businesses, not just a commoditized exchange of money for some cold product or service. But I sensed that about you, Carol, when we met, and I feel like we had that commonality there.
I agree.
Yeah.
And what I think I really enjoyed was that you had two different businesses that were so polar opposite of each other. So
Mhm.
it kind of showed how flexible you were. And if you could take some of the principles of what you had in Empirical and then apply it to Ducati, because yes, the motorcycle industry is really kind of, it's different. It's so different than every other industry. And you found out, right? When you
Yes. Yeah.
came into Ducati Redmond, it doesn't get run like normal businesses. The industry is very much about knowing people and creating those relationships. So it's not that it's unlike other businesses, but
Right.
that's the foundation. If you don't know somebody in that particular industry, or say a sponsor, right, in helmets,
Mhm.
it's really hard to get in
Mm.
until they know you or
Yeah.
have at least heard of you.
Yeah, I'm learning. I'm learning, but I fortunately have some team who do have that experience and knowledge, and then you've been very, very, very helpful, by the way, in all of our conversations. So thank you for the advice.
You're welcome.
Yeah, you've always been
Love to
and
share.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the background, Travis. I think we met, and then I think we're gonna do an event actually this next weekend.
On the 21st.
Our kind of first co event, and then I know I want to do track day with you, and on the motorcycle side. And so I've shared things about my other company, starting it from basically when I was in my basement to we manage close to $5 billion in assets now on the Empirical side, and have multiple locations, and and I'm happy to, if there's any interest in sharing any of that, or
Nope.
on the
Yeah, Travis is
about
like, yeah, I want to get to the nitty gritty.
Yeah, I don't know. Whatever you guys want to talk
the
about.
what people do.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that get hung up on what people do, and we're not
Mhm.
human doings, right? We're human beings.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
who you are is far more important than what you do, because who you are penetrates everything that you end up doing. Who
Yeah.
you are as a person. Like, I had business meetings all day yesterday. I had a lunch meeting downtown at Joey's Pizza in Oklahoma City. Not a sponsored thing. I just love Joey's Pizza. And we sat there not talking about business for like 2.5 hours. And I would much rather do that than go and sit down and talk numbers and talk metrics and this, that, and the other. I don't even know what the guy does. I think I know what he does, but like, it didn't come up. And that is
Mhm.
so much more value to me. You talk about, motorcycles being a relationship-based business. Like, if you're not building real relationships with the people out there, regardless of what it is that you do, then you're
Mhm.
going to go home and you're going to shut the door and you're going to be alone, and all of that stuff is going to hit you because you are alone and you haven't built any
Yeah.
relationships. What
Yeah.
we have found is all of that external stuff is really the fruit that comes to bear every season. And the reason that happens is because of the work that we do on the roots, that we do on ourselves. And I got to know, Ken, what is it about you that makes you a Titan? What are those qualities about Ken that causes all that fruit to ripen each and every year?
Well, when I was younger, if we were talking the personal story,
Every story
I
is from when you were younger, Ken. Come on.
That's right.
We
So,
build
Here's
on
a
our
photo of when I
past,
was
right?
younger. Every photo
yeah,
is a photo of
exactly.
when you were
A
younger.
couple minutes ago. That's pretty good, Trev. When I was, some principles that in all my search to have opportunity in the world. I grew up in a family that was very loving, but we didn't have a lot financially. And my dad worked very hard. He worked multiple jobs, and so that work ethic part for me was something. I mean, I started working when I was 14, and then through high school and college, I always had multiple jobs at varying times, and was and growing up the way that I did, I had a motivation. It was kind of multifold that led to me doing financial things, but it was I want to secure my financial independence for my family, and for for me to be able to not have to struggle. And I started realizing everybody deserves to achieve that. It's not about being money hungry or greedy or any of those kinds of things. Everybody deserves to have that financial independence. And so I always had this creative urge to create be in a business or do something there, and contribute and do something unique. And so when I got connected to the advisory side of the world, I thought, hey, this is an interesting career opportunity because I can help people. I can, in effect, run my own business and be that entrepreneur, but I can also help people secure their financial future, the very thing that I knew I wanted, regardless of what my career was going to wind up being. And so, as all of that was taking place, and I got out of college, and I spent a lot of time reading, success books and those type and self development materials, because it wasn't something that was talked about a lot in our family. And
What kind of books?
um,
What are some of the titles? Who are some of the authors?
back then, one, I went through like all the material that Tony Robbins had available when I was like 24.
That's a commonality. There's a
And
lot of people that did that. Yeah.
yeah. I read Think and Grow Rich. I think that's a book by
Napoleon Hill.
Napoleon Hill, and How to Win and Influence Friends. That's still a book by Dale Carnegie that I hand out to my younger advisors and team members. And then there was a whole series of entrepreneurial books. I would just search on Amazon, like, hey, what running your own business. Good to Great was a book when I once got the company
Jim
going. I
Collins,
would read.
Good to Great.
Yeah. There's a book called Gem I read pretty early on, Great Entrepreneurial Masters. And then, everything related to those types of themes that I could find. I would read Blue Ocean Strategy, things like that, of just trying to open my mind to what are successful companies, what are successful people, what are they doing? And through all of that, one of the things that I will share with some of my the younger team members that I try to mentor is, first thing is opening your mind that anything is possible. I think a lot of times we grow up
I
where parents are
love
like,
that.
don't do that. It's a lot of risk, or that'll never work, or what. And I see that, I see it in my kids sometimes, and I see it with certain friends and family and people where they're not happy where they are in life, but yet they're so close-minded to what's possible, what you can achieve. And I noticed a marked difference once, when I was younger, and said, you know what? It doesn't matter what my background is, or that I didn't wind up going to Harvard or any of those things. Anything is still possible for me. And I think that's like subconsciously does some real magic. And then going into situations with an open mind that this could work, or this is possible, and suddenly I'm getting into opportunities and that I never would have thought were possible before, right? And so becoming the owner or the CEO of the company, or getting opportunities to invest in things, or for example, even the Ducati shop, if I was, how I would say 80% of people that I knew they would say, well, there's no chance that you would ever even be able to be the one opening it, because you've had no experience in the motor. You didn't even work in a motorcycle shop, as a guy at the counter kind of thing.
But don't you think that's somebody else's insecurity, saying that, right? Because everybody likes to share their insecurities with other people, so it can create doubt. But as long as you keep an open mind, I mean, come on, I was pre-med, and here I am in the motorcycle business. How the hell did that path lead to where it did?
Yeah.
Right? Because anything is possible. And
then,
if you're open-minded, you can do anything. The problem is risk. The definition of risk and taking that chance. Who defines it? And why do we believe it? Right? Because if we've never taken that risk, how do we know that the result will be something negative, when the result can be something completely miraculous and positive, right? Which is obviously what happened with Ducati Redmond. I mean, you had a passion for the sport and you opened it, and everybody's probably looking at you like you were freaking nuts, right?
Right.
Well, I've seen Ken. He is freaking nuts. But no, this is good, Ken. You talked about what makes you Titan is your work ethic, that you believe everyone deserves financial independence. You have an open mind. You believe anything is possible, and you use that curiosity to go and try new things. Now, when you open something like a motorcycle shop, you might have some kind of goal in mind, and people might measure success or failure based on whether or not you achieve that goal. But what we don't often think about that always happens is there's all these other lessons and all these other things that happen on the journey to what the perceived original goal was. And many times those are much more powerful, much more impactful than the original goal ever would have been in the first place. Because being something like the number one Ducati dealership in the world, which I don't know who that is. I don't know if that's you or one of your goals. But the things that you have to do and learn and execute and understand and grow and perceive and be in order to achieve that, that's the stuff that really makes the difference. Being number one Ducati dealership means something. It means you have the most sales. That doesn't really mean anything other than that. Does it feel good? Sure it does. But like the plaque on the wall behind me, it was great that day and it looks pretty. But what is the real lasting value and impact of just a piece of wood with some engraving stuff? It looks fantastic. I love it. But other than that moment and me reflecting on that moment, the awards that we receive or accolades that we get really don't mean a whole lot, and certainly don't mean a whole lot to anyone else. It's all those other things that we encounter and impact and learn and grow through that make all the difference.
I agree. Yeah.
True.
End of show. That was it. Nailed it. We're done.
Are we out on the high note?
True. Ken, what's something about you that a lot of people don't know? I see guitars in the background. Is that a passion of yours? Do you
Yeah.
collect? Do you play? Do you have like a secret CFP band that you go play in with some kind of nerdy name that you do on the weekends?
It's a stress relieving hobby that I do have guitars in all my offices, and I'm enjoying, even at home buying nicer guitars and learning to play. And there are a few guys in different offices that I travel to. I'm in Bellevue, Washington, but I go to our Irvine office a lot. And I've got a couple of guys that one plays the bass and drums, and we'll fool around. But it's more of just, it's just a fun hobby. And I think, probably no one knows outside of it, you didn't see it, that I like doing that. And then the other things was, I don't think, I haven't advertised it in any of my LinkedIn material or anything about motorcycles. Probably most of the clients that we have in my team didn't even know that I rode motorcycles until I'm like,
Wait a
I'm
second.
opening up yeah.
Nobody knew you rode motorcycles up to that point in Empirical?
Probably not. Yeah, it wasn't. It's just something I did on my own, and there was no one else at the company that rode. So, I wasn't talking about it. I never really talked about it. So I think a lot of them were surprised when they're like, "You're doing what?" And I was like, "Well, I've been riding. I've been riding on and off all my life, and so it's just something I really enjoy." And
You kind of
so
mentioned that in your bio, that you come from a family of 7. That's insane. So
yeah, that's right.
yeah. So your brothers, are they older than you're the youngest brother of the 5 altogether then, I'm assuming?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I'm the youngest
Oh
one.
my dear God. What's the order of your family? Like, where do your sisters fit in?
They are right above me. So it's me and then sister, and then all brothers.
You're joking.
So
You're
you're the youngest of 7?
baby.
Yeah, I'm the youngest
Yeah.
of the 7. I had wrote in there
Oh,
that they were the ones that my brothers are the ones that taught me how to ride, and
yeah.
specifically one of them. Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah. What's
um,
the difference, the span of years between the eldest child and you?
18 years between from oldest to me.
Good
There's like an 18. My
God.
mom was
So
That's
busy
the
for 18
same.
years.
Yeah, that's the same
yeah.
in my family. Not
Oh, you
me,
too?
but my dad is the youngest of 7.
Oh,
He
wow.
had 3 brothers and 3 sisters. Like his oldest brother lives in Oklahoma, not too far from me, and I think there's 18-year span between them as well.
Span.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's cool.
Well, no wonder your
Cool.
dad had to have so many jobs.
Yeah, there was a lot of kids, my mom
There
was
were
at
a lot
home,
of
and
kids to support.
there's a lot of hungry mouths to feed.
Okay, so like,
Yeah.
which brother ended up actually getting you involved in motorcycles, or were they all involved in motorcycles and kind of like, got you involved when you kind of got to an age that you could throw your leg over one?
Yeah, my dad even had a motorcycle when I was little, and then eventually he decided they're dangerous and he got rid of it. But I remember he used to take me around. I was like, "Oh, this is awesome." Then all of them, my brothers rode bikes, and then they all actually used to go riding dirt bikes together, and I was like, "That's exactly what I do." And so my brother Dennis, he was the second eldest, I guess, and he's the one who used to come over every weekend almost, and then he would teach me to ride on. He had a variety of bikes, but it was a pretty big bike. But I would sit on the front. He'd kind of show me how to ride, and then
Aw.
eventually I got a dirt bike and would ride dirt bikes and stuff. And I always wanted to race, but my parents were very, very risk adverse about everything. So there's a lot of things that I have done as an adult. Like I always wanted to do martial arts when I was little, but my dad's like, "You don't want to do that. I don't want you getting in fights." He didn't really understand, I think, what the real purpose of it was. And
Yeah.
so
And
I did
martial
put on
arts
my
is phenomenal for discipline for boys, because I got my kids
yeah.
involved in Taekwondo, and because there's a little bit of a hierarchy, and they started to understand structure a little bit more, and the discipline that they got in Taekwondo actually helped me at home. It was phenomenal.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, and I started it when I was like 30 and stuck till I got the second level of black belt in the Kachikembo martial arts system. And then I've kind of
Wow.
taken a break the last few years, but I actually want to get back into it. So there's a lot of things later in life where I was like, hey, I have these unresolved desires I'm gonna do. And that's another thing, Travis, going back to what made me tick, is like I don't give up on things. It may be later down there, but eventually I will do them. And once I start, I just don't stop. Like I don't till I was a black belt or till I learned to play guitar very well. I will keep plugging away at it. And same thing with the company. I was like, hey, there's a lot of people that are very smart, probably much smarter than I am, but I have this tenacity where I will just keep chiseling away and I won't stop. And I'll do it, if I have to stay up all night multiple times. Like, and that's another thing I try to impart to young people. Say, hey, it's not always, how smart you are, but there's this, a lot of the people who are successful is because they weren't afraid to fail and
Mm-hmm.
they never stopped. They just kept
Mm-hmm.
working at it and working at it. And so,
Yeah. No, it's true. I
yeah.
know a lot of really smart people that when they hit their road bumps along the way, it takes chunks out of them,
Yeah.
and they can't overcome that and they quit. And it's like, but you're so smart. But I think being that intelligent sometimes too works against you, because you're just kind of like, well, I'm so damn smart. Why isn't this working? Well, clearly this is a failure. I just got to, kick it to the curb and try something else. And it's like, no, stick at it. Keep going, figure out. And I think it is, when you are that intelligent, the failures seem that much more insurmountable to get over. And I think people that, think they're less intelligent, which in truth, I don't believe they are, like you're saying you are. You just have that extra thing that makes you want to work harder, want to make it successful. And I think that's the difference.
Intelligence without dedication is essentially worthless. It doesn't matter how smart you are if you can't execute. It doesn't matter what it is that you can think of and solve in your head. If you can't bring it into reality, then it doesn't matter that you have the solution. If you don't have the connections or the dedication or the way to implement it, like, it doesn't mean a whole lot that you're intelligent. Our basics for the intelligence system is pattern recognition and predictability, which is great if you're doing something that matters, right?
Yeah.
If you're in
and
sales,
you need support.
Yeah. If you're in sales and you're intelligent, you can recognize the patterns and you implement the system that you need to use, then the intelligence is great because you've recognized the pattern, you've implemented the system, you repeat the pattern. The problem with that is when you're intelligent is that leads to boredom. And you've solved that puzzle. So whoop-de-fucking-do if you can make some sales, right? Because now you're bored. I came across this problem at the end of last year, the last 6 weeks of 2022. How many 20s are in that? I think I just had a 6-digit year. There goes my intelligent claim out the window. I didn't do a whole lot. I felt pretty worthless. I wasn't working on any projects. I laid around like a lump. I watched a lot of TV, which I hardly ever do. And then last night, I went to an improv class and got to do something different and meet new people and try new things and be loud and crazy and just do something different.
Yeah, but you're expanding your mind.
And now I feel great again. Yeah.
I can conquer the world.
Make Travis great again. Send him to improv, apparently.
Yeah. Well, and I think this is why I like you doing what you do, Ken, is that in doing these two different industries, you've opened your mind to two different concepts too. And I think when you do that, you become even more creative. What's next? You could be opening up something else, right? Another company. Yeah. But I also know that even for myself, and correct me if I'm wrong, even with Empirical, when you were in, burgeoning advisor, right?
Yeah.
did you not have mentors? Because I think having mentors, having advisors, having people that support you and encourage you and motivate you is incredibly important into your development.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So with
Wow.
Empirical, did you have that? I mean, did you have multiple people, or did you have one trusted source? Or
I the partner who originally hired me was 22 years my senior, and he was a great mentor. His name was Jack Monteith, and he's retired from Empirical about 5 years ago now. But he was a phenomenal mentor to me. And then I looked to other people in the industry that I studied their materials and their books, and when possible, we had a little radio show, was able to interview some of those guys.
is that still running?
It is not. We kind of
Okay.
got sidetracked with other business stuff during the financial meltdown in 2008, 2009. So we took a break from it. We just never got back to it. But I always enjoyed it, and we had a chance to interview authors and some leaders within the industry and things like that. And I've always felt, modeling yourself after people who've already done it and been successful is a great strategy. So I have tried to study and look at what those leaders have done, and for sure, I think that's very important. Yeah.
Yeah. How about you, Travis?
Do I have any mentors,
Mhm.
or do I mentor people?
For the, either, both. Yeah.
I've had a boatload of mentors over my time, going through the foster care system and living in trailer parks. There wasn't a lot of people that were giving you great advice. They were giving you advice, but a lot of it was based on their actions and really what not to do. And fortunately, I was picking up on those lessons, even though I wasn't really in the place to employ them. And then when you get into a system like the Navy, you're assigned a mentor. And of course, that's just like a paperwork drill, because that you and that person may or may not jive, right? You may not be in the same energy, you may not care about each other, but eventually you pick up some people that'll come by and give you some tips, and eventually you start mentoring other people. I've got a few people that have followed me through their career, and every time I see them, they just praise me profusely for the things that they were able to accomplish. And part of me is really happy, and part of me is like, all the mentoring in the world doesn't mean shit if you don't actually implement it. And of all the people that you give advice to, right, there's a fraction that actually implement it and do well. So I've got a guy, Sean.
Well, you know what
Cruz.
they call people that ask for advice and don't take it, right?
Those are assholes.
Yeah.
Yeah, those
That's
are
right.
assholes.
I heard that. That's pretty good.
They ask for your advice.
Really?
And
You
do the
haven't heard
opposite.
that?
No, I never heard that.
But as soon as we just defined that and said the word, there was someone that popped up in your head. And since we're recording this, I don't want you to say who that person is, but we can all, we can all think of
Don't
those.
throw those people under the bus. Yeah.
We all think of those people in our world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've got people that especially in the podcasting game, that I talk to on a fairly regular basis, monthly or weekly, and I see them growing and growing and growing, and it's insane, and I love it. We had the opportunity to interview Mark Tim, and he is amazing, and we asked him about his mentorship and what he does. And I am currently looking for a mentor right now. I've had ones in the nonprofit game. I've had some people give me advice in the podcasting space, and I'm looking for a new one right now, because I truly believe part of my growth, part of the reason for the last 6 weeks being kind of crappy, is I didn't have a mentor that I was reaching out to.
Did you ask Mark?
No, but I probably should give Mark a call, huh? I know I can get 5 minutes of his time.
So when we interviewed Mark Tim, I didn't know anything about him, and Travis had a conversation with him prior. This gentleman was mentored by Zig Ziglar.
Oh, wow.
Incredible.
Oh, yeah, he was one of the first guys I read his materials on sales when I got into it.
Yeah. And then
And
Mark
an
Tim ended up writing
incredible
this.
interview. So
yeah,
when it comes out, we'll let you know, because he was a very interesting person. Lots of knowledge, lots of information.
Yeah, it was amazing. He actually incorporated his family and runs his family like a business. They've got trainings and they watch Shark Tank together. And no kidding, um, both Kevin Harrington, who's the original shark on Shark Tank, and Mark Tim were mentored in person by Zig Ziglar, and they co-authored this book, Mentor to Millions, which is just an absolutely phenomenal book. If you're listening to this right now and you don't have someone that's a mentor, or you're not currently mentoring something, you're doing life wrong. There's not a lot of things that are clear cut right and wrong. That's one of them. Is we don't get to where we are. We don't become who we were meant to be. We don't get anywhere in life without others pouring into our lives, without that relationship that we're often building and doing life together. It's those that really believe in us when we don't have the ability to believe in ourselves that help elevate us to that next level year after year after year.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true. So did we already ask you then, besides the guitars, what else you might have like that nobody would know? Like let's
Nobody would know.
go back
Oh.
into, since we've been talking about everything in our childhood, right? Is there any experience that you had that affected you profoundly?
Yeah, do you have like the Smith family fight club that no one knows about?
I think those guys were my older brothers were, because they were so close in age that they were fighting all the time. But fortunately, I dodged the steel cage death matches. By the time I grew up, they were already all pretty much out of the house by the time I even knew what
Well,
was
plus
really
you were
going
the baby. Come
Yeah.
on, your mom was going to protect you. You're the baby.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. She was very protective.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was with
situation.
mine too.
Yeah, were you? Wow, that's a great question. You know, things that happen, things that don't. Yeah, I think just some of the things I shared, probably I haven't shared with many of the people even that I'm around all the time, about the way I grew up, and just, you know, wanting to have wanting to have a different experience in life, in that sense. And so I don't know if there was any particular trigger events. Maybe I can come back to that as we're talking,
Sure.
because I'm a little
And
blank
jog your
right now.
memory
But
a little bit.
yeah,
I know
yeah,
it's
yeah.
a lot of
Um,
history to have to go through in one shot like that.
Yeah, the older you
yeah,
get, the
yeah.
more
You need
files there are.
experiences.
Oh,
There's
that lady is
a lot
working
to you.
overtime up there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Um, and with your podcast here, what is the what are you hoping, if you don't mind me asking a question, what are you two hoping to accomplish with this? You know, what is your goal or your
Vision
message?
for it.
Yeah, what's the mission?
Yeah. I think for Travis and I, we were tired of hearing podcasts that basically only talk about people's businesses, which is why there's a hang up when we have people on. All their program to do is talk about their business and try to pitch to us how successful they are and what,
I see.
product or service they have to offer. And at the end of the day, him and I, we're completely different people, but we connected on such an intimate level
Mhm.
of wanting to connect with people. And that connection did not include businesses,
I
because
see.
while they're parts of us, they're not the core part of us who make us who we are, right? And our
Mhm.
values and the ethics and the morals that we have are very similar. And so why not get to know the person? Because if people trust the person, whatever business you're going to do, people are going to follow you, try to figure out what you're doing. They like you as a person. And
Yeah.
it was really important for us to kind of bring that back into this world. I think too many people had started these podcasts that were just completely solely based on, I run this business or I run multiple businesses and look at how successful I am. And here are the products that I have. Who gives a shit? If I
A
don't
lot of
like you,
people do. A lot of people care about that stuff. But
I
there's plenty
know.
of shows. There's so many shows that cover that stuff.
Yeah.
When I look at this, I want to know. I want to know the real raw Ken. I want to know the real raw Carol. I want to know the real raw Travis, like, what makes me tick? What are the things that just light me up completely? What are the things that are eternally frustrating? What roadblocks do I have? What are the stories of hardship and turnaround? What were those magical points in life where you really had a new profound understanding when someone climbs the hill of business or whatever their professional life looks like and they reach the top? They're above the clouds. There's very little air there, and there's no one else there. It's
Yeah.
lonely. Achieving that thing, that plaque on the wall, that number in the bank account, they find it means nothing.
Right.
And when they go back, just like Mark Tim, he talked about in his episode where he had the best business day of his entire life, and he got to his driveway going home, and there's kind of like a hill in the driveway. You can be in the driveway but not yet see the house. He didn't want to go home, not because he didn't want to see his family, but because he knew he wasn't bringing the juice that he was bringing to his business home to his family. He wasn't present. He wasn't with the people that mattered most. He didn't know how to connect with them, and he made a decision in that moment to take care of the people that mattered most to him, because anything in the business world meant nothing if you didn't have relationships with people to share it with. That's the stuff that really matters. Joshua B. Lee, in the first episode that we ended up releasing, talked about how he made a $1 million handshake deal that cost him $10 million. And when his second woman in his life, who's Rachel, who's now his long-term partner and spouse, was getting ready to leave Seattle to come down to Austin, he didn't want to tell her that he had just been completely financially wrecked. And she said to him, "I got you." And his big thing is we can say that as other guys, but it's very hard for us to let a woman in our life say that to us and mean it. And that, right? Because as the guy, we always have to feel like we'd be the provider and have to do, or we only have value based on the work that we put into whatever the equation is. Like, that's the stuff that really matters. You're a
Yeah.
CFP with 5 billion assets under management. Man, that doesn't mean shit to the vast majority of people. It's wonderful that you're there. I know that your clients think it's fantastic, but at the end of the day, that doesn't tell us who Ken is or why Ken matters. You can go on any other podcast out there. You can talk about your business all day long, the things you have to offer and how you got there and the success. But this is the show that you come on so people can understand who you are and why you really matter and why they want you in their life. This is the show that you send your clients, be like, I want to get to know you guys a little bit better. And here's an episode I did with Carol and Travis that lets you get to know me a little bit better as a person. And you're going to find clients that are like, dude, I didn't know you were playing guitars. Actually, my best friend is Jimi Hendrix's cousin, and we have a 10,000 guitar warehouse that are all dedicated to him. I'm going there next weekend. Do you want to come along? And all of a sudden, you have a whole new relationship with the people that were always in your sphere. But because, especially in the financial world, they don't actually get to know you as a person, well, then none of those other things will actually ever happen. You'll never have those deeper conversations, those deeper commitments. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if your clients learned about the real you and they took you on some fantastic vacation where you guys had something in common and you had this core experience together? Do you think that person would refer you from now until the end of time?
Yeah.
They would.
Yeah.
They would. Instead of trying to figure out how you can get them to refer customers, you have real experiences, real time with them, real connections. And all of a sudden, they can't help but say your name. After I met Carol in person, we had kind of known of each other a little bit in the circles that we run in, but it didn't mean anything until we actually spent that time together that week at the ranch in Texas. And now I'm like, Carol. And Carol's like, Travis. Because we really know. We really know who each other is. What drives us.
You remember the first phone call? How many hours? Because you were driving, and I think we spent like 2.5 hours on the phone. And then Travis is like, I gotta go. I have another call. I forgot I had another call. And we literally seamlessly spoke through this call. And those are the kinds of relationships you want to have, where you don't necessarily have to agree with their viewpoints or opinions, but you can connect on this really cool level of, hey, I respect you as a person. You respect me as a person. We can say whatever we want to, to each other, about each other. I mean, one thing about Travis and I that I really love is we are brutally honest with each other. I love you, dear.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So, but I also, and in with people that I speak to on a daily basis, there are some people that may not like me. And I know that because I am very blunt. And I'm not blunt from an uncaring place. I'm blunt from a very caring place, because I think people are so used to saying their line of bullshit and then people accept it and just move on in the conversation. I will actually stop the conversation completely and say, bullshit.
Gotcha.
And they're shocked because nobody's ever done that to them before. But to me, it's like, why are you wasting my time feeding me bullshit? I'm going to tell you it's bullshit so we can move on and figure out what's really going on.
Right.
It's a cover.
Yeah. I don't allow the people in my life to lie to themselves. And some people are just not ready for that. And I'm okay with that. That's perfectly all right with me. As long as they're willing to call me on my shit, I'm happy. Because I know I say some shit too. I know.
Yeah.
I know I do. Right?
It's okay though, but it's real. That's what we love about it, Travis.
Yeah.
And
You want to
here's
dodge or
Ken.
deflect?
Ken is so mild mannered. He won't say anything. He's just really nice and accommodating.
Until I lose it.
Until you lose it.
Until you lose it. When's the last
need to
time you
hear
lost
this.
it, Ken? When's the last
Exactly.
time you just you regret it? You're embarrassed that you did it, but you did it. What was the circumstance? What happened? Why do you regret it?
Is sometimes in the work situation I'm very passionate, and so sometimes maybe when something doesn't go exactly how I would expect it to, I get a little intense, but it takes a while. It takes a while to get there, and I try to be very strategic, about how I'm communicating things until the point where something does go sideways, and then I never like fully scream at people or necessarily
You're not a
call
screamer?
them names. No, I'm not a big.
That's
not
not
generally.
what I heard.
But I do get excited and I do get intense, and then I have this thing where when I get to that level, it takes a while to like shut me off, because then I'll hammer the point home in like 20 different ways, and I know that the person
you're a
I'm
parent.
talking.
You can't help but
Yeah.
hammer that point.
And Travis, I was thinking about you guys were asking a difficult time or something people don't know maybe. When I was in college, I rode motorcycles back then. I had brought the bike I had, and I was in a pretty serious accident, and was in ICU. The guy pulled down. I was riding home to the dorm one day after, I had a buddy in college who also rode, and we were going somewhere, and we got all the way back to literally like a couple blocks from the dorm I was living. This was like my freshman year, and this guy didn't see me and just pulled out from a side street, and I just drilled right in the side of the car and stuff, and then the next thing you know, I woke up in the hospital, and obviously my mom was very worried and stressed, and I had to stop school for that semester.
So what happened? What was broken? What was cut up? You do great about like glossing over a story, but you never give us any details, Ken. What are the details?
Yeah, I broke my collarbone, and it cracked a rib and a vertebrae in my back, and had some scars in my arm and stitches and things like that.
We call that street cred.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you lose your pole vaulting scholarship?
Yeah. Well, there were two things that came out of that whole experience for me that probably changed the course of going and getting out of school and going into my early adulthood and through my life. And one was just connecting on a spiritual level with, I came out with no permanent damage, or there's nothing that I can't do that because of that, and I felt very beyond fortunate about that. And so for me, there is a spiritual element to me that maybe a lot of people I work with and things probably don't even know about.
That just makes you that much more interesting now, Ken, to me.
Keep internal about that. And then secondly,
what do you mean by spiritual?
Just I believe in a creator, and I believe in God, and I have my own relationship with that. It's something that is very important to me and is a cornerstone of who I am.
So like voodoo?
No, just
Stop it, Travis. He's just poking at
I
you.
want details.
I got
Ken.
a Travis doll over here right now. I'm poking.
That's a spirit, Ken. That's a spirit.
We do
Or I'm
this,
gonna-
and most guests are at some level uncomfortable because most people don't really care about a person when they ask how they're doing. They don't really want to know the answer. Ken, we really want to know the answer.
Yeah.
We really want to know what
Yeah.
spirituality means to you. And guess what? There's a huge part of the world, probably 3/4, that's not going to agree with you. And whoop-de-fucking-do, because you're not hurting them.
Yeah.
You care
Right,
about you.
right.
You're proud of what you've decided, whatever that means. And it's no big deal. It's not like someone's going to hear this in client and be like, I guess I can't be a client anymore. No one's going to care.
Yeah.
The
No,
chances of them
no,
hearing
because
this are almost nothing
come on.
anyway.
Everybody spiritually is something
Yeah.
different, because
Yeah. No,
I know
Uh-huh.
I know you can be a Christian, you can be a Catholic, you can be whatever you want to be. It doesn't really matter. And it's not
Right.
going to affect you. That spirituality is what makes you you.
Yeah. I grew up in going to Christian churches. That's something my parents were very involved
Denomination?
in. Non-denominational. So my mom was
okay.
Catholic, my dad was Lutheran, and when they married, they decided to.
Oh my goodness.
This is the
make
two
a comp-
angriest sects of Christianity. Like they're so mad. Everything's doom and gloom. Like I grew up, my wife and I grew up Lutheran, and everything is like hellfire and brimstone. Like, oh, if you violate this rule, you're going to hell. But if you do this, also, then you're going to hell. And if you're there already, we're going to send you in a new circle of hell. Wait, that's Catholicism. I forget which one that is.
Yeah. And I'm not going to comment on any of that, but
I really love the fact that you're so daring in this interview, Ken.
Yeah. So, but coming, I think when you go through your teenage years, you kind of have that rebellious part where it's like, hey, as soon as I was able to not be forced to go to church or whatever, I didn't anymore, right? And then, but in the during that process of being in the accident, being in the hospital, it was like, hey, whether I attend a church on a regular basis or not, this is something that is important to me, and I connected to that in my own way, and I've had that ever since then, and I do believe that's been a part of any fulfillment or things that I've done that are positive in any way. I do credit a lot of that, and so to my connection with God and that spirituality. And then second thing that came out of that experience, and other difficult experiences like going through market meltdowns when I was just a few years. I mean, we started this company in 2006 and 2008. We were in a financial crisis. It was one of the largest, most difficult ones since the Depression and in the history of markets, right? And so during each of those times, those difficult times, even in the accident, I realized that we are on this planet for a very short time. It seems to be getting shorter on a regular. As time is going by, it's going by faster in an exponential way for me. And so who I include in my life and the things that I decide to spend time with and on, and then it something started with that when I got into that accident, that hey, I'm not going to have people in my life that that aren't productive to me and me to them, by the way. And and I'm not saying I'm perfect at that. I think we probably all have people where we still are annoyed, or just that we keep around maybe longer than we probably should, or but
Everybody's
I have
been guilty of that.
Yeah. It is during those times sometimes where I hit the reset button, and it's reminded me that hey, we're only here for a short amount of time, and so if I can't create a positive impact in their life, and they're not, for me, whether it's business partners, friends, that family stuff, because you feel you still got to hang out with your family occasionally, but
yeah, you're tied to them.
but in all those areas,
but you can limit your time with those people too, and just put them in a different quadrant of your life, where they're not so much a part of the core.
Yeah.
I have also that basic group of people around me that I spend the majority of my time with, and that I feel like, there's a contribution that's very mutual and it's mutually beneficial. Right.
Yeah.
But then there's other people, of course, you've got to just kind of go, yeah, maybe we move them over here and see what happens, because time is the most precious commodity we have. We can't buy more of it and we can't
Right.
get more of it. Right. So and honestly, if we use it and we choose to be with whoever it is that, sucks the living daylights out of our lives, they take that time and they take it from other places in our lives.
Yeah.
And that could be,
exactly.
robbing time from your family, from friends that really, truly matter to you, from your work, right? So it's
Mhm.
really important to pick that core group that it's almost like you fill each other.
Mhm.
Even if
Yeah.
you are depleting, you're filling each other's cups. And it's a very, in a sense, it's very spiritual, because these are people that are constantly, we talk about it all the time. You have a cup, people either fill it or drain it, right? You want
Yeah.
people that fill it.
Yeah,
Does
and
Travis fill your cup?
He does. He does.
Nice,
In
Travis.
fact, when we decided to do this, I was so super excited, because I had never anticipated I wanted to do a podcast before, but we just talked about it, and it never even occurred to me that it could happen. But the fact that he said yes, that he saw value in it, and obviously I saw value in him, right? Because we wouldn't have been talking about it. And then we have these Tuesdays where it's like coffee with friends, man. It's like catching up with people you really enjoy. And we don't
Yeah.
have people on here that we're not interested in talking to. So I walk away really fulfilled for the day, and it actually sparks the rest of my week and my creativity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
I want to make another comment on like time succubuses, because no amount of shared DNA means that I have to put up with your shit. And just because it's not just the time, right?
Yeah.
Because they can
Yeah.
put you in a mood, they can put a thought in your head that you're
Yeah.
thinking about for weeks, which doesn't just take away your time, it takes away your peace of mind. So when you're with the people you do really care about, you're not present either. You're thinking
Yeah.
about this other stupid shit that your cousin said about some nonsense political topic that no one fucking cares about. And it's 3 weeks later, and it's got a little hold on you. And you're like,
Yeah.
why is this? Like, why do I even see that? You don't have to. You don't have to
Right.
see
No.
that damn person. Like, oh, Uncle Billy's going to be here for Thanksgiving, and he's going to make all the girls feel uncomfortable and this, that, and the other. Tell that guy to not come. And if he can't fix his
Yeah.
behavior, because he's going to come
Right.
ruin it for everybody. Uncle Billy, don't show up. No one, we don't appreciate you. Like,
we don't like
seriously.
Uncle Billy. Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck Uncle Billy. Or don't. I don't care. People need to hear that. They need to hear that it's okay to, just because you share a
that's
last
good.
name or you grew up in the same house or some other nonsense commonality does not mean they're worth your time, energy, effort, headspace, anything else. Just got to say that because I know
True.
someone's got to hear it. And then I want
Yeah.
to say to Carol, thanks so much
Oh.
for being in whatever this is. Fantastic relationship that we have together. I'm looking forward to seeing you this weekend.
Yes.
This weekend. I'm driving down tomorrow. Can't wait. I love in-person time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where are
Where-
you, Travis, by the way? Where are
I'm
you
currently in Oklahoma City.
Oh, okay. And you're south, right, Carol? You're Olympia?
Olympia. Yeah.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Ain't
Yeah.
no
Are
one
you
but
in
people
California
Seattle
right now,
think
or are
that's
you in
south.
Seattle right now?
I'm in Seattle area.
No, he goes back and forth. He goes to
Yeah.
California. And so I never know exactly where he is. And every time he says he's taking a flight, I'm like, I don't even know where you are taking a flight from to, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I travel a lot. But
Yeah.
I'm in Seattle this week till Friday. So,
Gotcha.
yeah.
As we're getting ready to wrap up here, Ken, I got a couple questions for you. One is
Okay.
where can people get a hold of you? What's the one place that you want to send them to? And the other one, I'll ask you after you answer the first one.
Yeah, I mean, for me, there's Empirical's do you want me to give my business information? Is that,
You tell the people
um,
listening
you-
the one singular place you want them to go, whatever benefits you the most. If it's LinkedIn, it's LinkedIn.
Oh,
If it's
okay.
Empirical, it's Empirical.
Yeah.
If it's both, then you don't have one place you want them to go.
Okay. Well, for the two things I'm doing, I have Empirical, EMPIRICAL.net. My email is ksmith@empirical.net. And on Ducati, it's DucatiRedmond.com, and it's ken@DucatiRedmond.com. So if you have an interest in motorcycles, that would be a way of connecting to me. If you have an interest in wealth management, we help clients. If you're allowing me to do a little plug on that, we help clients that are looking for a comprehensive wealth management experience. We manage client investments. We have a tax group, and we partner with a legal firm. So we do their investment management, we do financial planning, retirement planning. We help manage the portfolios, but we also do their taxes and estate planning. And we are in a fee-only capacity, so we're not making commissions or those kinds of things. It's generally a management fee. So that's typically the way that we help on the advisory side. And then obviously, if you like Ducatis and
And who doesn't?
and who doesn't? Yeah, they finished the race a year pretty well, right?
Yep,
So
they sure did.
yeah. So
Yeah.
you wanna purchase one? Let's talk. But
Second question, Travis.
Second question is, if someone's struggling right now with wherever they're at in life, what advice would you have for them?
well, I would say don't give up. That's for sure. And it's there is always a way out of wherever you are. So yeah, I would encourage them to everything we've been talking about on this interview and discussion. All of us have gone through difficult times, and so for me, it was taking the time to again start to dream and create a vision. If times I'm struggling are the times that I'm like, well, what do I want? I'm not happy with whatever the circumstance is in whatever area or aspect of my life. Well, then what would be perfect? What would be the dream? And focus on that, and then your mind starts looking for ways to get there. Has been my experience. But
So basically reverse
yeah.
engineering it from the end goal of what you want out of your life. Yep. Yep. Yeah, I agree.
I'm not a therapist, so Travis, and I don't play one on TV or any of that kind of stuff. But I'm just sharing what my experience has been. When I hit those, I just regroup and then start thinking about, well, what is it I want? I'm not going to mire. I do notice family, friends, people in my life. Sometimes they like to mire in the depressive state, versus like, hey, there certainly is a time for that, but then let's change the environment. Don't stay in the pit. Let's
It's
get out of it.
perspective.
Yeah.
The problem is refocusing and changing your perspective. And when you do that, you can we all have those down moments, but if you can keep them brief because your perspective is, high energy and high frequency, then you can get out of that pretty quick.
Yeah.
Would you say that 6 weeks is pretty quick or no?
Pretty quick.
On a personal note, hey, how about
on a
6
personal
weeks?
note, you think that's quick or not?
I think everybody needs downtime though, too. And I think, Travis, we've been going nonstop over the last year. So 6 weeks at the end of the year, to kind of regroup and have that moment of creativity, there's nothing wrong with it.
There it is. I'll make sure that my wife knows that Carol is okay with it. Thank you so much for being our guest today, Ken.
You're going to take 6 weeks off? Is that what this means?
He did.
Oh, you already did.
He did
I
at the end
did.
of the year.
What are you doing today? Nothing. Oh, do you want to
Yep.
do something? I was like, no, nothing is actually on my agenda. That's what I'm going to do.
Oh, that's awesome.
There's a comedian out there. I just heard this. He's like, I think it was like an old Bill Burr thing. He's like, girlfriends, they have a way of just fucking up a good time. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Nothing. Oh, do you want to do brunch? No, I don't want to do brunch. No, I don't want to talk about this. What's up with this? Is this salmon? Does this taste like salmon? Like, no. He's like, no, nothing was what I had planned. Very specific thing. Not
really funny,
not
right?
filling it up
Nothing
with.
is a thing. Yeah.
Nothing is
a
the thing
thing.
that's on my to-do list.
You're
Try to
right.
check it off by the end of the day. Thanks again.
You bet.
That's all for this episode of Titan Evolution Podcast. We hope this no-holds-barred conversation opened your eyes on what it takes to live a genuinely happy life according to your own terms. Now that you've treated yourself to such a refreshing discussion, you cannot listen to nonsense content anymore. Be sure not to miss an episode by subscribing to the show at TitanEvolutionPodcast.com. Don't forget to share the word so more people can be enlightened, informed, and entertained. Thank you for listening.